I'm Eric Anderson. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, President Barack Obama vows action to fight sexual abuse in the military.
I'm Amita Sharma. Marijuana use among teenagers has hit a 30-year high. We'll look at pot's effect on learning. And the Boy Scouts are about to take a vote on their long-standing ban against openly gay scouts. We'll hear what one gay Eagle Scout has to say about it.
Some relief is on the way for North County commuters. The Sprinter is coming back online, and scientists make a surprising find about elephant seals along the California coast. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Irwin Jacobs and by
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Dwayne Brown is off tonight. President Barack Obama is promising to leave no stone unturned to stop sexual abuse in the military. He met with military leaders today about the problem. He says it's a threat to national security.
Not only is it a crime, not only is it shameful and disgraceful, but it also is going to make and has made our military less effective than it can be.
A Pentagon report says 26,000 service members may have been sexually assaulted last year. Obama says military leaders are ashamed of their failure to end the problem. A new report suggests a connection between multiple traumatic brain injuries and veteran suicide. Researchers found service members' risk of suicidal thoughts went up with the number of brain injuries they suffered, and they say it was a lifelong increase. You can find more about the report on our HomePost blog at kpbs.org. The county grand jury says San Diego Unified needs a policy against bullying, not by kids, but by adults. The panel looked into complaints about a teacher and found the district had no policy about adult-to-children bullying. The district has 90 days to respond to that report. The Sprinter will start running again this weekend. The North County commuter train has been sidelined since early March because of brake problems. The brakes are now fixed. Sprinter service will resume Saturday morning. One of San Diego's busiest trauma centers has gotten a major upgrade. KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg says the trauma department at UC San Diego Medical Center in Hillcrest has undergone that huge upgrade.
The new trauma unit at UC San Diego Medical Center in Hillcrest has a capacity to treat 4 patients at once. That's a big plus for a department that sees more than 3,000 severely injured people every year. Program manager Jonathan Jones says the new unit has a smart layout.
This boom system right here has a lot of our equipment on it, and there's space all the way around it to make a safer environment for the people working and the patient, and easier access. Even the equipment is integrated into the walls, much like you'd see in an ambulance.
Dr. Raul Coimbra is chief of the trauma department. He says the unit's state-of-the-art equipment will really make a difference.
With this cutting-edge technology that's present in this room, we can get x-rays up on the screens in 3 seconds, whereas in the past it used to take 10 or 15 minutes. We can get blood test results immediately in our computers. We don't need to run somewhere else to get a result. So we can respond much more rapidly to the needs of the patients now.
Trauma is the leading cause of death for Americans under 44. Most of the trauma patients at UC San Diego have been in car accidents or falls. Jonathan Jones says their new unit is ready to save lives.
We've taken our already very efficient speedy care and looked at the pieces within it and tightened up all those things to provide even better care.
Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
Portable restrooms have returned to the streets of downtown San Diego. The move comes after 6 porta potties were taken away from the area 2 weeks ago due to funding issues. For years, homeless advocates like Bob McElroy with the Alpha Project have pushed for more access to public restrooms.
Provides basic dignity and sanitation and hygiene to folks has got to be a good thing. I mean, they might not be the most attractive things in the world, but neither is, human waste on the sidewalk.
There's a fundraising effort underway to keep the porta potties until new solar-powered restrooms are installed later this year. The County Water Authority is proposing its smallest rate increase in a decade, 2.6% for untreated water, 3.5% for treated water. The increase would mainly cover the higher costs of imported water. As the conversation about how to regulate marijuana in the city of San Diego continues, county health officials are concerned about the increase in the number of teens using pot. Amitha Sharma is in for Peggy Pico tonight. She takes a look at the problem.
Marijuana use among teenagers is at its highest in 30 years. In fact, kids smoke pot more than any other illegal drug. Many don't think it's dangerous, but local health officials are alarmed about the harmful effects of chronic marijuana use on learning. Carmen Polito is a psychologist who studies those effects. She joins me now. Welcome, Carmen.
Thank you.
Let's start with the hard data on marijuana use among local teens. In 2011, 26% of 9th graders and 39% of 11th graders reported using or trying marijuana. Also in 2011, the percentage of students in those grades reported using marijuana in the last 30 days, it grew by 50%. Why are more teens using marijuana now?
We are all asking ourselves that question, and I think that one of the things that we have found out in our research is that maybe we have put a lot of emphasis on outreaches and community education on other substances like alcohol and harder drugs, but we have kind of like left marijuana to be. And a group of researchers at UCSD were focusing a little bit more in really getting some hard data in terms of what are the effects of marijuana use in the adolescent years so that people can make better informed decisions when it comes to initiating substance use.
And in terms of information, a lot of students, a lot of teenagers think, look, marijuana is a natural herb. They know that cancer patients use it. But you've actually researched the effects of marijuana use on the brain during adolescence. What does your research show?
So I'm very fortunate to be part of a larger group of researchers at UCSD, and what we have found is that recent marijuana use in adolescents that otherwise are fairly healthy show that it makes an effect in their ability to learn verbal material, to use their working memory, and to attend to information. This is within 7 days from last use. Now, these results of impairment in these abilities is when we compare them to healthy adolescents who are not using any substances.
Is the damage long-term?
There's some good news, and the good news is that we observe that after some abstinence, these abilities recover. So we know that after 2 or 3 weeks, things like working memory and learning of verbal material improves so that you cannot really tell apart healthy adolescents from marijuana users. But other cognitive abilities like attention or errors in executive functioning, they appear to linger a little bit longer, even longer than a month.
A lot of these teens have parents who come from an era, a generation where marijuana use was rampant. But the marijuana that's used now isn't their father's marijuana or their mother's marijuana, is it?
Right. So some studies suggest that there might be something up to a 6-fold increase in the psychoactive ingredient of today's marijuana. So what this suggests is that what people are smoking nowadays might be a lot more potent, and this will lead to greater concentrations of toxins in the brain. And so that's why we are particularly interested in knowing what kind of effects can this lead to?
What signs should parents look for in discerning or detecting whether their kids are using pot?
Parents were very bad at identifying marijuana use, and I think that it's very important for them to be mindful of any changes in the adolescent's behavior, not wanting to hang out with their friends, or changes in their grades, or not discussing what their goals are anymore. This together with maybe some other behaviors like being more secretive or spending more time alone with their peers or in their room. I think that these would be some things that could suggest that something is happening, and I think a good idea would be for parents to have a conversation early on if they have a suspicion that their teenagers are using marijuana.
And very quickly, what effect do medical marijuana laws have on the usage of marijuana among teenagers?
Well, any kind of changes in law or anything that would suggest increased availability and permissiveness of the substance, that being marijuana or any other substance, is likely to increase the access and the opportunity for teenagers to use more. So this is just what these changes would suggest. We're yet to observe that.
And we're running out of time, but for more information, people can go to our website, kpbs.org. Carmen, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
Bonfires are, of course, popular at San Diego County beaches this time of year, but a new report suggests they may actually hurt air quality. Regulators in Los Angeles found that one bonfire burning all night emits as much pollution as a diesel truck that's driven more than 500 miles. Of greatest concern are microscopic soot particles that can lodge in the lungs. Los Angeles and Orange counties are considering banning bonfires over health concerns about wood smoke. Further up the coast, researchers have found swine flu in elephant seals. A UC Davis study shows that seals in Central California have tested positive for the H1N1 virus. It is the first time that a human pandemic strain has been found in marine mammals. There is no word on how the seals contracted the virus. Pieces to this next story can sound a bit like a science fiction B movie. You've got invasive frogs, a fatal fungus, early pregnancy tests. The frogs can be found right here in San Diego, and scientists say the fungus is a real threat to frog populations. KPBS science and technology reporter David Wagner sorts it all out for us.
This week, Stanford researchers published the first evidence that this infection can be found in African clawed frogs throughout California. The chytrid fungus was first described in the late 1990s, and ever since, frog researchers have been seeing a catastrophic decline in amphibians.
Once the fungus reaches some of those populations of frogs, you can have almost complete loss of the frogs at a particular site within a matter of weeks.
Alan Pessier is the San Diego Zoo's resident frog disease expert, and he worries that the chytrid fungus could make most of California's frogs simply disappear. Finding this fungus in African clawed frogs is particularly scary because they're not affected by the disease, and that means they're really good at spreading it to a lot of other frogs who slowly suffocate to death as the fungus clogs their skin. African clawed frogs were never supposed to be in California, but in the early 20th century they were imported all over the world for a peculiar reason.
It was really widely used as a pregnancy test.
That's right, pregnancy tests. A few generations ago, if you were a woman hoping to conceive, you would have your urine injected into an African clawed frog. If the frog started producing eggs, congratulations, you were pregnant. With the advent of frogless pregnancy tests in the 1960s, doctors did away with the frog procedure, but the frogs stayed, bringing the chytrid fungus with them. So what can we do to save amphibians from mass extinction? Researchers want to learn why a select few frogs seem to be immune to the chytrid fungus. The most drastic yet effective solution is to bring the frogs into captivity.
It may be their only hope to save those species at this point.
At home, you can help abate this problem by not buying invasive species of frogs as pets. And whatever you do, don't release your pet frogs into the wild. David Wagner, KPBS News.
The Boy Scouts of America are set to take an important vote next week. Amitha Sharma has reaction from a local Eagle Scout.
It could be a watershed moment for the Boy Scouts of America. Next Thursday, the Scouts leadership is expected to vote on whether to end the ban on openly gay Scouts. The resolution reads, in part, no youth may be denied membership in the Boy Scouts of America on the basis of sexual orientation or preference alone. But the group plans to continue to bar gay adults from working as Scout leaders. Here with me are Eagle Scout Chance Kawar, who is a senior at Patrick Henry High School, and Howard Menzer, president of Scouting for All, We asked representatives from the Boy Scouts to come on the program. They declined. Chance, you're a Scout who happens to be gay. When you made the discovery as a boy that the Boy Scouts exclude gay members, what went through your mind?
I guess I would say I was confused. I didn't understand why that would be something that had any relation to Scouting. And I didn't want it to impact my Scouting career, and so I made a decision to not share it with anyone.
You recently wrote an op-ed piece in the UT San Diego about your experience of being gay in the Scouts. What was the reaction from the organization?
I didn't hear from the organization specifically, but I heard from many members of my troop who reached out to me and said they supported me, and they were not in favor of the policy, and they wished that I could continue to be a part of the troop. But my Scoutmaster did inform me that I would no longer be welcome at troop meetings and events.
Why?
I felt like he probably felt the need to comply with National's policy, and I'm sorry that he felt that way, but I respect his decision.
Howard, you've been a Scoutmaster with the Boy Scouts of America. You also are gay. In your time there, what, if any, discrimination did you see?
I began Boy Scouting in 1945. There was no discrimination. There was no discrimination into the 1950s in the area I was in. In the 50s, the Boy Scouts did have troops that were gay, that were white, and troops that were not. So they had segregation in the South, and they allowed it until they got sued. In the 60s, they did a lot of work against women being Scoutmasters. They said they couldn't. They spent over $10 million to prove that.
But you left because of discrimination, is that not correct?
I left because of discrimination. The last thing I was doing in Boy Scouts at the time that I just had enough of it was teaching Scoutmasters teaching Scoutmasters CPR and first aid from the Red Cross so they could take kids out more safely, and teaching the first aid merit badge. Often they were both in the same class. And I kept hearing these gay jokes from the adults for the kids to hear. And it was just more than I could tolerate.
Let's talk about this vote that's coming up. The Boy Scouts released a statement to us. They said, while perspectives and opinions vary significantly, parents, adults in the Scouting community and teens alike tend to agree that youth should not be denied the benefits of Scouting. If approved, it ends the ban on gay Scouts, but not openly gay leaders. It seems illogical. What is the argument against allowing gay leaders, Chance?
The argument against? I'm not sure that I understand what the argument against is. To me, it seems like they're sending a mixed message by saying gay youth can participate, but not gay adults, as if something changes in a man's, I don't know, his way of conducting himself when he turns 18 years old, and I just don't agree with that.
What effect has the rule banning gay members had on the Boy Scouts, both on the Scouts and the organization?
It's lowered the numbers, for one thing. It's cut their funding. There are people who will not. I know we've gone to organizations that do funding for them. United Way, for instance, I don't know how many letters have gone out to various United Ways who are loosely connected, and they each make their own choices. We ask them about their non-discrimination policy, and then why are they funding the Boy Scouts?
I want to jump in here. Chance, what kind of pressure do you think the Boy Scouts is receiving, both inside and from the outside, on this resolution?
I think they're feeling a lot of pressure, in part because I think our culture is changing, and the Boy Scouts of America recognizes that. No longer is it being gay something you need to be ashamed of, and I think that the Boy Scouts of America would be wise to listen to the voices that are coming from not only outside the organization, but inside the organization. There's a lot of debate over where we should go from this in terms of the membership policies. And I think that most people would agree that being gay would not affect a person's ability to be a scout. And so I think that if they start to recognize that pressure, that hopefully it results in some positive change.
And we've got to close it there. Chance, Howard, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
If you're a street artist and you're handed a 6,000 square foot warehouse, don't ask questions. You just start painting. That's what happened to Christopher Konecki when the design company he worked for, Digital Operative, asked him to transform a warehouse in San Diego's East Village for a client. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando looks at what artists do when they're given the space to create.
Street artists not only want to redefine the kinds of spaces used for art, but they also want their art to be viewed from a fresh perspective.
My vision was that people could get involved in this space and really experience the space, to change it from that gallery setting, you know what I mean? That's kind of like a sterile setting, and we wanted to do something that's really fun and energetic. We want people to come in here and be blown away by the art, but then also stay.
And explore.
The audience is supposed to enter it, get inside, and be isolated.
Catherine Brannick's mural takes advantage of the large space, but doesn't miss the small details.
The first thought in my mind is I want someone to see this from far away and, in a sense, want to almost hypnotize them and pull them into the piece and get them to appreciate it a little bit more up close. It was a lot of fun tackling the space just because of the different textures that the corner afforded. And I mean, up there, that's actually glass. And there's broken glass over there, too.
Artists not only get inspiration from the space, but also from each other.
I feel like I've literally gone through, like, paint school, like college. Like, my post-grad was done in here. Like, we have one artist, Max Moses. He's been painting graffiti for, like, 35 years.
Are you ready? So this is like a brush with air. It's all about, like, mastering how hard you press, how soft you press, how close you are. I like painting with paintbrush, too. There's, like, this certain quietness about painting with a paintbrush. This is loud and boisterous and aggressive. This will kick your ass.
Moses is one of the 35 artists who will be showcased at the Warehouse 1425 event tomorrow night. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Kicking indeed. The weather forecast is calling for more of the same for much of San Diego. Temperature is going to be in the 60s along the coast, 70s for the inland valleys. The mountains will get a little variety. It'll be windy tomorrow, and there will be some showers on Saturday. Also windy for the desert tomorrow, and then sunny and hot. Do you believe in ghosts? There are some people in Encinitas who are convinced that an historic figure from the town's early days is still around the place where his barbershop used to be. See what you think as Ken Kramer tells us this story about San Diego.
This is a story about Mr. Johnston. Right here he is. You can see him in a picture taken sometime after 1920. Grant Ulysses Johnston was his name.
He's my great-great-grandfather.
Came to Encinitas and ended up becoming the town barber, even though he wasn't trained as a barber, Stephanie Cashin says.
Never cut hair, didn't know anything about it. He was a gambler, was the truth.
Loved to play poker, they say. Always up for a game. Sure, let's play.
And actually he played cards at a place called If Ida. If Ida bet this or if Ida bet that. That was the name of the card shop. But in a card game, he actually won the barbershop.
That's right, won it. Lock, stock, and razor strop. He was now Big Al, proprietor of Al's Barbershop.
So in literally one hand of cards, he became the town barber.
Big Al was, by all accounts, a terrific guy, and in the Encinitas of the 20s, 30s, and 40s, he was a compassionate, generous, really nice man.
During the Depression, during times when there was a lot of poverty in Encinitas, he would see people walk by with, and he would give them, he would say, give them a haircut they'd be proud of.
Now, if you wonder where was Al's Barbershop back then, it was right where this newly built restaurant is today, called Via Italia, 500 block of Pacific Coast Highway. And you know something Stephanie Cashin says?
They definitely feel that my great-grandfather is still there at that restaurant.
He's still around. Maybe. Big Al, dead and gone for decades, just might be a ghost now, who in this restaurant plays tricks every once in a while. Just ask the owner, Paolo Pedrozzani.
Like in this area, is that light, I replaced it on Tuesday, the other two lights went off on Wednesday. Then I replaced that light again, and the other light went off. And I said, geez, a brand new building, how can it be possible?
Okay, lights go out, things like that happen. Paolo didn't think it was anything otherworldly until a customer came in here one day, sat down, and started saying things like, yes, he's happy now. He likes the way you've recently painted the place. Paulo said, excuse me?
I said, I'm sorry, what are you talking about? They said, oh, you don't know? There is a ghost that lives here. I said, a ghost? Are you joking? No, no. He spent most of his time in this corner, and he really likes the color.
This corner right here, just about exactly where Big Al's barber shop used to be. Well, Paulo thought, if he likes my new paint job, I'm not changing anything.
And I have to be honest, since that time, those lights, they never burn out. Never.
Meantime, at the San Dieguito Heritage Museum on Quail Gardens Drive, they've got Big Al's original barber chair, the very one he cut hair in for decades, and some barber items from the period. Oh, and one more thing about Al. He was a thrifty guy. Remember I said his name was Grant Ulysses Johnston? Where'd this Al come from? Al's Barbershop, Big Al? Well, see, when he won that shop in that poker game, it was from a man named Al, and he figured it cost too much to change the sign, so he changed his name instead. Thus, Al has become a legend in Encinitas after all these years, and perhaps a continuing presence down at Via Italia?
And the rumor has it is that he's still kind of hanging around back in that one area.
If so, Paulo says he's fine with it.
And Big Al is a nice, good guy so far.
And a nice, good story, too, about San Diego.
Now, if you'd like to watch more of Ken's stories about San Diego, his half-hour show can be seen tonight and every Thursday night at 8 here on KPBS. Tonight's stories are on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Have yourself a great evening.